You'll have to excuse the awful sounding vocals there, but the drums you just heard were Hertz drums, which is a plugin you need to check out if you are a songwriter that does not play drums. And I fall into that category. I've been messing around with this plugin for a little bit, and I find that it fits my workflow really nicely. And this is because it's not over simplistic to the point that you can't do much with it, and yet it's not super complicated like some of the other VSTs out there. For those of you that don't like programming MIDI and just want to get great sounding drums quick so you can start writing, this plugin will be a nice fit for you. Of course, you can still be as complex as you want to be in your MIDI editor, and as you'll see here, this thing is pretty customizable. Let's check it out. Now, before we get into this, if you want access to all the recording knowledge I've built up over the past 15 plus years of recording out of my house, don't forget to grab a copy of my home studio mix guide. You can grab that in the description, and you could also register for my free online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can start to grow as an engineer. Now, first of all, I just want to say I'm not someone who uses MIDI drums or drum replacement VSTs all the time, right? I like to record live drums. However, I do use MIDI drums and VSTs like this when I'm creating music or writing a song, or I can't find a drummer. Sometimes bands will come in that don't have a drummer, and that's when we'll use some software like this. Now, Hertz Drums is an extremely realistic sounding drum VST that is simplistic, so it allows you to still be creative and just get parts in there so you can start working on your song. However, you can customize it quite a bit, and we're going to look into that. Now, I'm going to play this track real quick with the vocals muted this time, of course, so you guys can get a better listen to these drums. Pretty cool, right? Well, at the end, I will give you sort of a sneak peek at some extra steps I took to get these drums sounding as big as they are. First of all, let's talk about the different drum packs that Hertz has here. So in my library here, I have the red pack, the blue pack, and the metal unlimited pack. I believe they have a few other packs. These are the ones I have, and there's plenty of options to choose from. We'll showcase some of these packs, but first let's go to grooves. This is where your quick and easy loops are that you can, pull into your project at the drop of a hat. Now, first we have our styles over here on the left, then your time signature, and then your tempos. Now, the tempo of these drums is basically going to be fixed to the tempo of your project, but the beats and grooves will vary based upon these tempos, which I'm pretty sure is the tempo that these drums or loops are recorded at. Now, over here we have some canned intros, endings, beats or grooves, and then fills. And the way we audition these is simply by hitting play, and then we can click around to listen in. And like I said, if you change the tempo up, these are all going to change so you have even more beats. Now, right now we're on the alternative rock drum kit. For the intro video of this video, I think I either used this one or the D-Gent. But just so you can hear what some of the other packs sound like, I'll just audition a few of them. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. So there is really so much more. So although we have all these other kits here, we can actually switch out any of these instruments with the click of a button. So if I go over to library/sampler, and maybe I want to change out the kick drum, I can audition all these other kick drums. And I'm just left clicking on these. And maybe I like that one, so I'm just going to right click. And now this kick drum is tied to this drum tone. Now you can do this for any of the drum pieces up here, even the cymbals, but that's not even all you could do. Let's pick on the snare tone real quick. So we'll grab the snare by clicking on it. Let's say we like that snare right there. So up here at the top right, it's even more customizable. First of all, we have 3 different microphone choices here, A, B, and C. So we're on B right now, but maybe we want to try a different tone out. Let's try mic C. A little bit more top end there. Maybe we want to tune the snare a little bit. Maybe we want some more snap out of it. Let's raise the pitch a little bit. Or maybe you want a deeper snare. We could tune it down. Now, below that, we have some volume faders. The first one is the direct signal, the direct snare sound. How loud do you want that? And below that is something super useful. It's the overhead mix. So how much of this snare drum do you want in the overhead microphones, right? Something that you can't do with live drums is take the snare out of the overheads. Well, you could potentially do that here, or you could make it even louder in the overheads, depending on what you're feeling. Below that, we have some ambience options. So how much of this snare do you want sent to the room microphones? And there's also like a reverb send in this plugin. So the reverb's down here, room's up here, and we can make adjustments accordingly. Maybe we don't want any ambience on this snare. Maybe we want it super dry. Or maybe we want this thing sounding freaking huge, bring it all the way up. Or maybe we don't want any of that reverb on there, but we just want it all room. So yeah, plenty of options here. Below that, we have some dynamics options, so we can set a minimum and maximum velocity. So maybe you want to make sure, there's no snare hit that is below 80. We could set our minimum there. We could do something with the maximum if we want. And below that is something super cool. So we could actually reverse this instrument. So we click reverse. Let's test that out. Very cool. This might be great for like a reverse crash cymbal. Used a lot in music. So let's click on the crash, hit reverse, try it out. Yeah, great little effect there, really easy to use. Below that, we can even adjust the attack, decay, sustain, and release here, and we can choose these different curves. So we can really shape this snare sound into, what we really want. The mixer is pretty simple. So we have all of our drum pieces here, and then we have our overheads, room, and reverb on the right. And then we even have groups. So we can solo just the kick drums, just the snares, the toms, and so on. Now, I did show you the grooves, but I didn't show you how to get them into your project. First of all, it's worth noting that with any of these beats, you can change them to half tempo or double time. So say we like this beat, and we want to change that to half time. There you go. Now, let's say you like this beat and you want to bring it into your song. All you have to do is grab these arrows down here and drag it up to your track. And there we go. Now we could actually go and edit in the piano roll if that's what you like to do. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is probably the most important element of this. So if we come over to the MIDI table here, we can see all these articulations for these different drum pieces. And if we hit the info button up here at the top left, we can see what all these articulations are. And this is where a lot of drum VSTs skimp out. In fact, with Hertz, it's so detailed that they've actually programmed a left and a right hand. And all these other hits. So we have the center of the drum, left and right. We have the rim shots, left and right, shallow, right and left, cross stick. And like I said, this is where a lot of drum VSTs fall short. Drummers do not hit the drum the same way every single time. So if it sounds like that, the drums are going to sound fake. So Hertz has made a big step into getting MIDI to sound a lot more realistic. Now, earlier in the video, I said I would let you know what I specifically did with these drums in the mix. So this is the actual MIDI track that was used for the song. Not too bad, but we can make these sound even better, and that's what I did. So just as a quick tidbit, when I am working with drum VSTs like this, I want to mix them like they're a real drum kit. So after I was done programming this song, what I did was just come into the mixer and then I soloed the kick, right? Just the kick drum. And then I bounced that to its own track. I did the same with the snare, toms, hi-hat, everything here. I bounced the overheads, the room, the reverb, and I just bounced them all to their own track. And that's what we have up here in red. All these red tracks are my drum tracks. And if we go to the mixer, we can see all these tracks and see what I did to them. As you can see, not much happening on the tracks themselves. Some Neve saturation there. And most of the processing is just on the drum bus. Some saturation, EQ, not much going on, but that's all you really need to push these already great sounding drums over the top. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure and go grab a copy of my home studio mix guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks. And also go ahead and register for my online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to turn your home recorded tracks into a professional product.